Hello friends, and welcome to another discussion video. In this video, we're going to be talking about killer design. I have a lot to say about a lot of killer designs as of lately and how they fit into the game. And I also want to talk about balance for killers as far as how they're balanced in the 4v1 as well as how they're balanced in the 1v1, because I think both of those things are very important, and I think that there might be too much focus on one rather than the other. Okay, so before I get into the actual meat of this video, the meat of the sandwich that is this video, I kind of want to just explain my kind of philosophy on the game, I guess. I think that Dead by Daylight is more of a casual game than it is a competitive game. I know there's some competitive aspects, things like the rank system and things that like make it feel like it's a game to be taken seriously, and I think that's good for the game, but I think overall the game is still a lot more on the casual side. And because of this, because the game is more of a casual game rather than anything else, I think it's really important to acknowledge that the number one most important thing in a game that's a casual game is that the gameplay is fun, and that's it. The balance of the game is important, don't get me wrong. I think part of making a game fun is making it balanced, but I think if you make something balanced in a way that makes it not fun, then it's overall failing the game, because I think the fun is the most important, right? I think when it comes to balancing things, you need to do it in a way where you are creating a fun environment for your casual game, because it's not competitive. It's not an esport. There's no like esport happening. There's no like esport org signing people. There's no, world championship or anything. It's a casual game through and through. So the fun factor is the most important. So the reason why I decided to even make this video is that a lot of people have been coming to me lately asking me about the newest killer, the Nemesis, and asking me whether I think they're overpowered or underpowered or where they belong in a tier list. And the answer is a lot more complicated than I can't just give them a yes or no, right? It's not a question that I can answer with a simple yes or no. It's a lot more complicated. And the reason why it's more complicated is because Nemesis is following a sort of design pattern that I feel like Behavior has been doing lately that really resembles a lot of their other killers that they've released over the past year or year and a half, where killers are kind of really, really strong and oppressive in like a 1v1 chase scenario, but they suffer from a bit of bad time efficiency, which makes them suffer a little bit in the 4v1, right? Or at least they're balanced in the 4v1, whereas in the 1v1, they are really, really strong and oppressive. Now, I'm going to give some more examples on this because I think this is really important as far as like this argument goes and this whole discussion goes that I'm giving right now. So bear with me while I trail off and go kind of in detail about this. I'll just give some examples. We'll just go with killers that have this kind of design, right? So Deathslinger is a good example of this. Deathslinger is a killer that is insanely powerful in a 1v1 chase scenario. He has the ability to go from running at 4.4 full speed to basically quickscoping a projectile that goes as fast as a fully wound hatchet, and he can do that in less than half a second. He can go from running to shooting a super fast projectile in less than half a second, and it's pretty much impossible to avoid as long as he aims correctly. This also gives him insane zoning as well, because at any point in time he can shoot, which means you almost have to be constantly juking. And if at any point you don't juke, he can just pull up his gun and shoot instantly, and you don't really have time to react because it's like less than half a second. So his power is basically insane. It's almost impossible to avoid getting hit by a good slinger if they're close to you. And the downside to this, like the downside to Slinger being this powerful, is his lack of mobility. He's a 4.4 killer, and also he kind of has bad time efficiency with his power. When he shoots you, he has to reel you in and then hit you and then reload and then shoot you again, reel you in, hit you. It takes a long time, right? So the idea behind this is that he is insanely powerful in the 1v1, and he's basically able to shut down all loops and shut down all chases, but it takes him so long to do it that as long as you're slamming out generators, the team of 4 survivors can still overall beat him in a 4v1. Let's look at another killer like this, the Twins. The Twins is kind of similar to this in the same way too. The Twins works in a way where Charlotte is just a 4.6 killer with really no special power, plays chases very standard, but she can release Victor, who is a not standard killer. He's literally 6.0 movement speed, which is insane. Has free movement, can jump and dash over pallets and over windows. Essentially, a good Victor player is kind of like Slinger in the sense that you can't avoid being hit. He also has the hitbox of a fucking truck. Like, it's insane. Basically, if the person controlling Victor is good at controlling Victor, there's really no reliable way to avoid getting hit consistently. You can maybe do some cheeky plays sometimes, but for the most part, you can't really avoid the damage. It's pretty much guaranteed damage if they know what they're doing. But again, there's a downside to this, which is the time efficiency, right? If you down someone with Victor, you then have to switch back to Charlotte, which, teleports you backwards really far because, they obviously have been running away the whole time. So then you have to run the whole way up to wherever you down them with Victor, with Charlotte, to pick them up and hook them. And it's just really, really bad time efficiency. So because of this, it is pretty reasonable to beat a lot of Twins players just based on making sure you do gens. Even though they get almost guaranteed downs, they still don't really win the games every single time because their time efficiency isn't the best. So I think you can kind of notice the pattern that we're getting at here. So I'll cover the next ones kind of quickly. Doctor is kind of the same way. A doctor that knows how to time his shocks will basically shock you every single time you go to use a pallet or window and deny you all vaults or pallet uses. But in turn, it takes him a while to get downs because he slows down every time he shocks, which allows you to get additional loops. And it takes a little bit longer to down than another killer might. So again, very, very powerful chase, but kind of bad time efficiency. And even the newest killer, Nemesis, is a lot like this as well. His tentacle attack is insane. It's basically an extended lunge that goes through windows, it goes through pallets, and as long as you're close enough to a survivor where you're in range to land a tentacle, essentially they can't avoid it. There's really no way for them to avoid it because you can just chase them until they're forced to vault a window or pallet, and then during the animation you hit them with a tentacle. But again, lower time efficiency because you have to hit them an additional time because of the infection and how that works, how it works when you infect people with the virus. It makes it basically they have to take 3 hits instead of 2, which makes him bad time efficiency wise. So I think you can maybe kind of understand what I'm getting at here. Essentially, they are designing a lot of killers as of lately where essentially their design is, okay, we're just going to shut down all loops and all chases, and survivors aren't really going to be able to do anything against them as far as being chased. But to make up for that and make them balanced as far as how they perform in a 4v1, we're going to make them a little bit less time efficient and make it so that as long as survivors split up and slam out gens and make sure that they're being efficient, they'll still be able to win. And while maybe you could say that this is balanced, you can make an argument that every killer that I just named is balanced, as far as the game goes. It is possible to beat them, it's not like every time you play them, you're going to 4K with ease, right? It's not like they're imbalanced as far as the game goes, but I still don't think that design philosophy is healthy for the overall game. Also, I just want to mention, too, that I really only mentioned a few of the killers that fit into this. There's plenty more I can name, but I don't want to make this video too extremely long. So just know that I named 4, but I could probably go into about 7 or 8 if I really wanted to. Essentially, the way that these killers work is that they give you unavoidable damage. No matter what the survivor does, no matter how well they play, no matter how much game knowledge they have and what they do, as long as you're good enough as a killer, you will get the damage no matter where they are on the map, as long as you're within range of your power, right? That's essentially all it is. You just have to be close enough to them that you can use your power, and you essentially will get damage, and it's unavoidable. So because of this unavoidable damage whenever you're within range of a power, it kind of has shifted the meta a lot of Survivor to, instead of what it's been for many, many years before recently, where basically people would run to a pallet, they would loop it, they would play it, they would maybe find a window and try to mind game the window and loop it as many times as they could until they got entity blocked, and they would give you chances to get hits, right? As a killer, if you mind game them back, you can get hits. It was very interactive, right? That was the old meta. The old meta was very interactive. It was looping pallets, looping windows, trying to play a tile and trying to play against each other at that tile to see who can play better. And now it kind of has shifted away from that because there's so many killers that exist like this that have this guaranteed damage that now the new meta for Survivor is kind of just running away. It's kind of like people call it the whole W meta because it's essentially you just get as much distance as you can, pre-throw pallets if you need to, just keep as much distance on the killer as possible and run the hell away. Just hold W as far away from the killer as you can and keep as much distance as you can, because if they ever get close to you, you just get hit and there's no way to avoid it. So the only way to avoid being hit is just to run as far as you can and keep as far away as you can as possible while your teammates do gens. And don't get me wrong, this works. This does work. You can beat most of these killers that I've been naming in this video with this strategy. Like Slinger and Nemesis and all these killers, they lose to this strategy because of their time efficiency. They have very bad time efficiency to go along with their oppressiveness. So these strategies do work. But the thing is they're just very, very boring for both sides. You're not really interacting with each other. You're not really like trying to outplay each other. It's just literally Survivor is holding W if you're being chased, and if you're not being chased, you hold M1 on gens, and that's it. And Killer is just basically following a Survivor until you get close enough that you can land your guaranteed hit, and then you get your guaranteed hit. And that's basically the entire gameplay when it comes to chases nowadays. In my opinion, if you couldn't tell already, this is all really bad for the game. I'm getting to a point now where I'm really, really missing what the game used to be, where people used to focus more on looping individual tiles and trying to mind game each other, trying to predict when a survivor is going to vault and, like doubling back at the correct time, or doing like line of sight mind games to trying to bait them into vaulting when they shouldn't and stuff. I miss those types of plays, as opposed to what we have now, where it's just really, really strong killer powers that basically guarantee hits, and the survivors are just holding W and staying alive as long as they can. And also, in my opinion, if you are the type of person that thinks that, well, this is better for the game overall because of those survivors that are so good, because I will admit that survivors that are really, really good at this game are borderline impossible to catch as a standard 4.6 killer, right? Like you go up against like the best competitive team in DbD, and you're playing just a standard 4.6 killer. Like if you're playing like Trapper without using traps, like best of luck ever catching them. It's gonna take forever to catch somebody, right? But here's the thing, if that was a problem that needed to be addressed, I don't think releasing killers that are oppressive addresses that. That leaves the unoppressive killers as horrible, worthless killers that you don't ever want to use, and then that makes the gameplay go to a place that's boring and stale, like I've been saying. I think the better way to address that problem, if they wanted to address it, would be to fix the maps, which is something that I know I've been rambling about. If you've been watching my videos, I talk about this all the time. I think fixing the maps would have been better. Creating more pallets that are semi-safe or like unsafe, as opposed to every pallet being essentially a god pallet with no counterplay. Making more interesting tiles that leave fair chances for both sides to get hits or avoid hits. You could have fixed this and made the gameplay more dynamic and fun in a way that didn't kind of destroy the 1v1 chase meta the way that it kind of currently is happening. I don't even really know 100% what like the purpose of this video is, because even in a perfectly hypothetical world, and I know this is only hypothetical because I know that this isn't going to be actually true, but in a hypothetical world, if 100% of the people watching this video agreed with my opinion on this, I still don't think it would matter. It's kind of too late. They've released like 5, 6+ killers that follow this design philosophy, and it's kind of hard to just rework a killer from scratch, basically, and make them do something else entirely, right? It kind of feels like we're in too deep at this point, and I'm not really sure what to do about it. I guess I more so just wanted to get my thoughts out there on how I've been feeling. It's something that's been kind of plaguing my mind for a while, and it's been kind of disappointing, really, because I do love Dead by Daylight a lot. This game means a lot to me, and it kind of hurts to see it going in a direction that I think might not be the healthiest or most fun. And I'm just curious to know how many people out there are agreeing with me, and if it's just me thinking this, or if I'm kind of on my own here. Because really, at the end of the day, I think what it boils down to also is that this game is really a casual game at heart. I know there is a competitive scene, and I know a lot of people do take this game more seriously than they probably should. But at the end of the day, this game is more of a casual game than anything else. So I think the fun factor should be the #1 most important. And I feel like the fun factor is really getting hurt by, everything that I said in this video. So please, if you guys are watching this, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Let me know why in the comments. I really, really want to know. I guess that's really the whole purpose of this, is just to hear your guys' comments. So feel free to let me know what you think. Leave the video a like or a dislike, whether you liked it or hated it. It doesn't really matter. I'll be back to uploading again soon. I know that lately a lot of my videos have been like this. They've been just me like talking, or maybe even borderline complaining about things. And I know that's no fun to listen to all the time. So don't worry. I'll get back soon with some more like just fun gameplay videos. But I just want to get these thoughts out there. Hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want. Like or dislike the video if you want as well. I'm going to go ahead and end here so I don't keep going in circles. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your night. I'm out of here. See ya. Take care. See ya. See you later. See ya.